The format is that our expert witness will make some opening remarks for a few minutes. Thereafter, there will be quite an in-depth conversation, Q&A between our chair and our expert witness around exploring the life and philosophy of Bhagat Singh. And thereafter, while that discussion is happening, you will have the opportunity, each of you should have been given a small piece of paper where you can write down questions that you may want to ask. So as soon as that question arises, please write it down. And at any juncture, we will have ushers on either side of the hall. If you just raise your hand with your paper, we will come and collect the paper off you, which should have your question on it. You don't have to put your name down. If you would like us to know your name, then of course write your name. And then we will make sure that the chair gets your questions, and hopefully he can address the question directly to our expert witness. So note that for this particular evening, you won't directly be able to ask the questions because there will be so many and we have so much to go through and so little time. Our chair for tonight is Sumit Sharma. Sumit ji is part of the Vichar Manthan team here in West London. And I know some of you don't like to be classed as London, but you'll have to forgive me for that. So the chapter is called West London. Sumit ji has a degree in business IT and networking from BCU. He currently works at Rackspace as a cloud solutions consultant, and he is the president of the highly celebrated and now distinguished Toastmasters Club at Rackspace. So, without further ado, we can start the evening, and I'll pass it over to Sumit Sharma.
Thank you all for joining us here today. As discussed, we are going to have an open forum and some opening remarks from our expert witness. I'll then go into some more detailed questions. If you guys have those questions again, please write them down, collect them during the break, and then I will be able to ask those questions later on. If we don't get to answer all of your questions here today, we will have some remarks afterwards. We'll record those and upload those for you to listen to. So to welcome our expert witness today is Mrs. Virendra Arora. She was born in 1940, born and also went to the same school as Bhagat Singh in Lalpur district in Banga village, which is now known as Lahore in Pakistan. She went to Agra University to complete her BA in teaching. She continued there to do her Masters in political science. She carried on as a teacher, a senior teacher, and a researcher. And she went on to produce numerous books and really the scholar from the young age of 24, where she was producing newspapers, articles, and it was in 1968 she emigrated to the UK and also produced the first book, first reference book and point of authority on Bhagat Singh, which we have here today, see later on. And if that wasn't enough, she was also Bhagat Singh's younger brother's daughter. So we have here today the blood niece of Bhagat Singh, live on stage for you guys to enjoy today. Really, the comprehensive collections of Virendraji's work, the numerous books she's written, again, which we have here today, we'll be able to look at and easily point to authority. Virendraji's father, Kultar Singh, younger brother of Bhagat Singh, was actually in jail at the time that Virendraji was born. So the first time she met him, she had to go to the jail to go visit her father. And we'll find out why he was in jail a little later on today. So the reason we have this here today, the reason we're gathered, is for a slightly intimate exposure. Who better as an expert witness than blood relation of the martyr that we're discussing here today? She was close to the action, she's developed literature, and she is a historian based on the topic that we are discussing. I want to move over now to Virendraji, let her talk a little bit, and some opening remarks about how you did your research and discovery of your uncle and the family background. Just let us know how that process ensued and how you went about that.
पहले तो मैं आप सबका शुक्रिया अदा करती हूँ। आप सभी यहाँ आज शहीद भगत सिंह, शहीद राजगुरु और शहीद सुखदेव को की याद में पहुँचे हैं। उनको शहादत को पूरे 86 साल बीत चुके हैं। 23 मार्च 1931 को उनको फांसी हुई थी। वह क्रांति का शंखनाद था, अन्याय के अंत का उनका आह्वान था, शोषण मुक्त समाज के निर्माण का संदेश था। बिना किसी प्रतिदान या इनाम की उम्मीद के मातृभूमि की मुक्ति का ये महासंकल्प था। हंसते हंसते मृत्यु को जो गले लगाने चल पड़े, उन शहीदों को नमन, शत शत नमन, शत शत नमन। भारत की स्वतंत्रता युग परिवर्तन का संकेत था, विश्व भर में दास्ता के अंत का प्रारंभ था, मानवता के उपकार का, दानवता के अंत का, देश में विदेश में जाति रंग भेद के चक्रव्यूह को भेदने, युद्ध मुक्त, रोग मुक्त, सर्वजन शांति में विश्व के विकास का भारतवंशियों को संदेश था। उन शहीदों को नमन, शत शत नमन, शत शत नमन। अब आपने सबसे पहले यही प्रश्न पूछा है, तो मैं यही बताती हूँ कि शुरू से ही, right from the beginning, I have been listening Bhagat Singh's name in my family, from my grandmother, grandfather, and everyone. So as far as my memories goes, Bhagat Singh has always been in my memories, with me all the time. And when the partition happened, my father and my uncle Sardar Kulbir Singh and my father Sardar Kultar Singh, they only brought those papers which were related to Shahid Bhagat Singh and their party, like files of the newspapers and their court proceedings and everything. So we have had quite a lot at home, which my father had kept for years, and he wanted someone to write a book on, an authentic book on that. By the time I have written this book in 1968, there was no other biography of Bhagat Singh at that time. After that, so many other books have been published, but by the time I have written in 1968, there was not any. So from all those papers, and I had a chance to meet several revolutionaries, Bhagat Singh's colleagues, those who were alive, and my grandmother, my uncles, my buaji. So all those people have been related to Bhagat Singh, had lot in their memories. So that's how I started and that's how I wrote the books. दूसरी किताब है जिसमें भगत सिंह जी के सारे पत्र और उनकी स्टेटमेंट्स वगैरह हैं, और ये जो किताब है ये जितने क्रांतिकारी हुए उनके लाइफ स्केचेस पर भगत सिंह जी की अपनी लिखी हुई है. I have edited this. So that's all.
That's great, thank you. So again, just want to let you guys know we've had some opening remarks. We may or may not have a break a little bit later on. I know you guys have paid good money to be here, so we're going to make sure you get the most out of that for yourselves. So Virendra ji, let's talk about a young Bhagat Singh. Before we get into the details, how was he as a child? If you could tell us a little bit about the day he was born, maybe some of the influences and impressions that you may have had at a young age with your family.
Bhagat Singh was born in village Banga, district Lailpur, now in Pakistan. It was 28th of September 1907, and 9 o'clock in the morning he was born. The very same day his father Sardar Kishan Singh and his younger uncle Sardar Swaran Singh, they both came out of jail. And his other uncle Sardar Ajit Singh, who was exiled with Lala Lajpat Rai in Mandalay in Burma. Soon after Bhagat Singh's birth, the news came that Sardar Ajit Singh will soon be back home. So all these things happened, and Bhagat Singh's grandmother, Shrimati Jai Kaur, started saying कि बच्चा बड़ा भागों वाला हुआ है. भागों वाला means भाग्यवान. He is very lucky child. So भागों वाला कहते कहते उनका नाम भगत सिंह हो गया. भगत सिंह नाम पड़ गया. तो इस तरह से, और उनके जो दादा थे सरदार अर्जुन सिंह, he had adopted आर्य समाज. Though we were Jat Sikh from Punjab, but he had adopted Arya Samaj. He was very impressed with Swami Dayanand Saraswati when he went to Punjab. He met Swami Dayanand ji and he became Arya Samaji. So he was a reformist. He used to have havan and shlokas in the house every morning. And Bhagat Singh was brought up by his grandmother, grandfather and two aunts. दो चाचियाँ जो थीं, एक तो बाद में 1910 में सरदार स्वर्ण सिंह जो थे, उनकी मृत्यु हो गई थी जेल में ही. He died, and Sardar Ajit Singh, he came out of the country. He went to several different countries. He stayed in Europe for several years and then went to Brazil, and he was in touch with the Ghadar party as well, which was in America. So he came out of the country and both the aunts were there. So he was brought up with by his grandfather, grandmother and both aunts. And he had seen the aunts himself, how they suffered without their husbands. And Bhagat Singh had very much impression in his childhood from his grandfather, because he learnt Sanskrit from his grandfather and Hindi at home, though in those days in the schools Urdu was the language which was used to be taught. So Bhagat Singh learnt all these languages at a very young age, and by the time he had finished his primary school, which means up to class 4th, he had read all the literature which was published by Bharat Mata Society, which was formed by his uncle Sardar Ajit Singh. And because Sardar Ajit Singh had started a Kisan movement in Punjab, and he was very successful. He was a very good orator, and he was very, very successful in that movement. And that is why British government had sent him to Mandalay, and but soon after, about 6 months he was there, and then he was released. But he had to leave the country, because if he had stayed there, either he would have spent all his life in jail or he would have been hanged. British government was so उनसे इतना डरी हुई थी गवर्नमेंट कि उनको वो जिंदा नहीं छोड़, तो इसीलिए वो देश छोड़कर विदेशों में आ गए थे कि विदेश से जा करके भारत की आज़ादी के लिए काम करें.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about Arjun Singh Rai, who was Bhagat Singh's grandfather, and his adoption of Arya Samaj. And he was in the army at some point as well?
No, he was a Unani Hakim.
Yeah.
He was a Vaid, जैसे होते हैं. Unani Hakim भी एक like a doctor. He was that. And a farmer.
And a farmer too.
Yeah.
Many times. So at that time, typically they would go to Khalsa school, but Arjun Singh Ji, he actually went to DAV college.
Yes.
What does that say about him as a person and what he was aspiring to educate?
Well, Bhagat Singh went to DAV school in Lahore. His father used to live in Lahore. He was an insurance broker, and as well as we have had some agricultural land near Lahore. So his father used to live in Lahore, father and mother both. So after finishing his primary school, Bhagat Singh came to Lahore and he was sent to DAV school. In the Khalsa schools, there used to be a prayer in the praise of king or queen, whosoever. So that's why my grandfather or Bhagat Singh's father sent him to DAV school, not in Khalsa school.
To get a better education as well. So then Arjun Singh Rai, which is Bhagat Singh's grandfather, had 3 sons. Kishan Singh Ji, who was Bhagat Singh's father. Swaran Singh spent a lot of time in Lahore.
In jail, yes.
And he had, unfortunately died
And he died in 1910.
1910. And then Ajit Singh Ji, who self-exiled to EU and Brazil. He was working with revolutionaries all the way in Brazil to help for the anti-colonialism.
That's right, yes.
So now let's move a little bit forward now to Bhagat Singh at 11 years old. He's primarily brought up by his grandparents and his aunts, like you said. What were Bhagat Singh's mother and father thinking at this time? And what were they thinking about their young Bhagat Singh? Were they worried about how he was so connected to the Mahatma Gandhi movement? Or what were their thoughts?
No, as I have said, they themselves, Sardar Kishan Singh himself was a freedom fighter. So in the beginning he was an activist, and he helped wherever there is famine or flood or too much rain or something. He used to help people. Once he took several children, those who have no parents because of the floods or the famines, and they opened a anathalaya in Lahore. So there were several children, they were keeping them there and looking after them. And as far as Bhagat Singh is concerned, he was quite happy that he has learned quite a lot at a very small age. By the time he was 11, he had read several books, and he had all the knowledge about Ghadar party and all the knowledge about the other revolutionaries, those who have sacrificed their lives. And as soon as Bhagat Singh had a chance to get into some sort of activity like Asahयोग Andolan, he, with his father's permission, he went into that, and he happily agreed to him that he can leave DAV school and go to take part in the Andolan.
So his dad actually gave him permission to bunk off classes to fight for a greater cause.
Of course, that was the time like that.
That's not how some people hear that. But
the country was everything for that at that time, and only those people can know what slavery is. People, those who have seen those days, we cannot judge the situation, how people were suffering.
definitely, to live in this country
Yes.
today, it was privileged to do so
Bilkul.
in an oppressed country back then. Let's move forward.